Thank you for joining us. I trust that you are watching this video because you are an existing leader hoping to sharpen your skills as a leader, or you are a leader in training preparing to launch a group. But either way, I'm glad you're joining us today for this video. So we've talked about a lot over the series of videos. We've talked about the vision for life groups, gospel, community, and mission. We've talked about the role of the life group leader. You're the facilitator, the delegator, the multiplier. We talked about why we multiply, why we develop leaders, and we gave basically a 7-step process that you have to actually move your group towards multiplication. So the next few videos, including this one, what I'd like to do is dive a little bit deeper into the concept of relational discipleship. How do you recruit, train, and motivate somebody within your group to be a leader? How do you do those 3 things? Recruiting, training, and motivating. So this video, we're just gonna talk about the recruitment process. How do we actually recruit somebody? And you might think that this is just maybe unnecessary to spend some time talking about, but this is actually probably one of the more difficult steps in the process, is making the ask for somebody, identifying somebody who is qualified to lead, asking them to enter into a training process, and then actually beginning to train them. And so this is really important that we understand, how do we effectively recruit people within our life groups to step up and serve in these roles. And so when I talk about recruitment, the principles I'm gonna share with you are the principles regarding recruiting somebody for co-leadership, or recruiting somebody who is going to be an apprentice leader who will then be sent out to launch a group. But these principles will apply to you trying to identify and delegate a prayer coordinator or things like that. You just can adjust the verbiage accordingly depending on the role that you are recruiting for, but I'm trying to focus on the leadership aspect of these things. And so what are the 3 things that you're looking for when you're recruiting somebody? Well, I've said this in many environments and you've heard me say it in previous videos, but what you're looking for when you're recruiting somebody is you're looking for somebody who is faithful, available, and teachable. Faithful, available, and teachable. So faithful is the idea that they are consistent. They've been in your group for at least a season of time. You know, they're not somebody who's just been there 2 times and then you're looking to already establish them as a leader. They're somebody who's been faithful. They're somebody who's available. This means they're not overcommitted serving in other areas of the church. They are not in a season of life where they don't have the margin to do it. And we all know different seasons of life have different demands on us. So the people that you recruit, they have to have some time, they have to be available. But then most importantly, the last part of this acronym is they need to be teachable. So this is the idea of humility. They need to approach leadership as one who says, I don't have all the answers, I'm willing to learn, and I really need God to help me in this because I do not have it in my own strength to lead. So that's really what you're looking for, somebody who's faithful, available, and teachable. And I have a resource that gives a little bit of a diagnostic of some questions that you can ask about people you're recruiting on top of this acronym that I've given you. I'm gonna read through some of these questions so that you get an idea of really who you're looking for. Because when you're a leader, you are going, and when it comes to recruiting other leaders, you're gonna fall on this spectrum in one of 2 places. Some of us are overly trusting of people and we assume the best in them. And so we basically see anybody as qualified to lead. And you are at risk, if you're that person who's overly trusting, to recruit a leader who maybe doesn't have the character, or they don't have the availability or the faithfulness to actually lead. And so you've got to know that about yourself. If you're really optimistic, you really think the best in people, then that's going to be probably where you struggle. So you've really got to discern the people you're recruiting, they really are ready. But then you might be on the other end of the spectrum where maybe you don't have a lot of trust in people. Maybe naturally you're a little bit skeptical of people. And what that will do is, if you're on that side of the spectrum, then you might fail to recruit anybody because you really don't trust that anybody is qualified to lead. So you really want to be somewhere in the middle. You want to be optimistic and you want to believe the best in people, but you want to be so cautiously. And that's why we really have a process for this. So once, as a sidebar, once you have somebody who you believe is a capable leader and you've already had a conversation with them, which I'm going to talk about how to have that conversation. But once you've basically defined the relationship with that person, what we have as a resource is we actually have a life group leader application. So that way you don't even have to be the bad guy. There's another layer of filtering that takes place where once you recruit somebody from your group, you can send them to me and I have them fill out the application, and then I'll meet with them and go over the application, and I'll talk through any yellow flags or red flags, and I'll share that with you. And then we kind of work together to help train this person. So this is not all on your shoulders. I want to come alongside you. There is an application that we want leaders to fill out if they're going to launch a group or if they're going to be a co-leader. But let's talk about some things you're looking for when you're recruiting somebody. This video will not be much longer. It'll be a little shorter because we're really diving a little bit deeper on the idea of recruiting. So the main thing that I want to ask when I'm recruiting somebody for leadership is I first want to ask, why do they want to lead? Why do they want to lead? Did they approach me or did I approach them? And there's not necessarily, it's not a bad thing to have a desire to lead, but sometimes you can tell that somebody wants to lead because they have an agenda. So if somebody visits a life group I'm leading for the first time, and the first conversation I have with them is them sharing with me their resume, teaching Sunday school or leading other groups, or the people that they know that are Christian famous, that's a red flag to me, because that kind of tells me there might be some signs of pride in there. If the first conversation we have is about the skills that this person has. So I really like it when people have a healthy fear of leadership. I really like it when somebody says, I'm willing to step up and fill a role, but I'm nervous about it. Because that tells me that they'll be a little bit more reliant on God, and it tells me that they are teachable. So ask the question, why does this person want to lead? Did they approach me or did I approach them? If they did approach you, just, that's not a red flag per se, but you do want to try to understand this person a little bit better and not thrust them into leadership too quickly. Another question along the same lines would be to ask, are there any signs of pride? Do I see any signs of pride? Now, the essence of sin is pride, so we all have some level of pride within us. So you're not looking for somebody who's perfect. Please don't hear me say that you're looking for somebody who's perfect, but you do want somebody who has a healthy fear of leadership. You do want somebody who has clearly made their life not about themselves, right? So maybe you're watching when they are discussing within the group discussion, they're not always talking about themselves. Maybe they're pointing the spotlight to other people. So just be aware of that, be discerning there. And then there's other things that other questions you can ask to discern if somebody who's faithful, available, and teachable. Are they consistent? Are they responsive when you reach out to them? Are they open to receiving feedback? Are they curious to learn more? I mean, there's many different things, but I think you will do well if you just keep to the acronym faithful, available, teachable, and that's what you're looking for in a person. Now, very quickly, let me talk about what do you actually say. When you've identified somebody who you feel confident in, who would be a capable leader, and listen, when I say capable leader, I don't mean they have all the skills already. I'm just saying they have the character. As far as you can tell, they have the character for leadership, because we can teach people skills, we cannot force character into somebody. That's key. But what do you actually say? So if you recruit somebody, there's really just a couple things you do. First, you gotta share the why. You gotta share the why. This means you give them a good reason why you want them to lead. You tell them, hey, I would love for you to consider being trained as a leader because it gives you a chance to invest in people, and the people we invest in, that's the only thing that will last eternally. Or it's telling this person, hey, we know that Lone Ranger Christianity doesn't work, and as a group or as a church, we really want to keep launching more life groups because we have so many new people coming to our church. I want to give them a space to actually grow. And people are more likely to jump into a new life group than try to join an existing one. So I'd love to train you on this process. You could tell this person you're recruiting in terms of sharing the why. You could say, leading a life group, it provides a space for people to know Jesus and other people better. It's a space for discipleship, and I think you'd be great at somebody who leads this out. So you gotta, when you recruit somebody, give them a reason why you're recruiting them and make it good. Again, I've said this previously, but it's not just, hey, Seth told me we just need more leaders. So what'd you think about it? No, you wanna tie it back to the Bible, you wanna tie it back to Jesus. Then once you actually share the why with them, you've gotta just ask them plainly. You've gotta ask them. Sometimes we dance around the question, but you've gotta just ask them, hey, I would love for you to train or participate in a training process to be a life group leader. Would you consider that? Take some time to pray about it. You just gotta ask them. But then thirdly, once you have shared the why and you actually ask them, then you've got to give them a process for training. So this means they fill out an application with me, that's part of the process. And then me and you, as the leader, can help talk through the training process for this person. As a sidebar, we'll do a video on this, but if you have DMGs within your life group, discipleship mentoring groups, that is a great environment to train somebody for leadership. That's why DMGs are such a good opportunity for leadership development. And so we'll talk about that in another video, but if you already have that in your life groups, then you already have your process laid out to train somebody. You put them in a DMG for 8 to 10 months, and then by the end of it, they'll probably be ready to be sent out and to lead. That's the gist of how you recruit somebody who is faithful, available, and teachable.